Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to season 2 of the Salad Bowl podcast. I'm so glad you're here. I'm your host, Kevin Thompson, and this is the place where I get to sit down with fascinating people from all walks of life and dive into their stories, the ones that shaped them, the challenges they've overcome, and the passions that drive them forward. My guests are everyday heroes doing extraordinary things. Every conversation is about finding those unexpected connections and learning something new. So get comfortable and let's explore together. You never know what you might discover. Today I sit down with Terrence Lestelle, also known as Terry. Now, what happens when someone who grew up in the 1940s and 50s sits across the table with a different generation, and instead of clashing, they connect? This conversation isn't about nostalgia, it's about perspective. We talk about a time when racial prejudice was loud, normalized, and unavoidable, and how growth doesn't happen by pretending it didn't exist, but by confronting it. We talk about sports, not just as a game, but as one of the earliest spaces where people were forced to see each other as teammates before anything else. And we also talk about how decades of practicing law doesn't change how you argue a case, it changes how you see people, truth, and accountability. Different eras, different experiences, same salad bowl where nothing has to dissolve to belong. Before we hop into this episode, I want to ask you, the viewer, for 3 things. 1, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're watching this episode on YouTube or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Audible. 2, make sure that you follow me on social media at the Salad Bowl Pod on Instagram or the Salad Bowl Podcast on TikTok. And 3, be sure to normalize authenticity. And if you don't know anything about that, tune into this episode of the Salad Bowl Podcast.
Now, give me my theme music.
You are now tuned in to the Salad Bowl. You are now tuned in to the... Listen up, don't care if you about to pass out or you just getting up. You really did your thing with this one, Kevin, gotta give it up. Messages you bring and be motivation to live it up. We out here really normalizing authenticity. Can't be talking all the time cause that mean you ain't listening. I think you look better when you smile, I see you glistening. Communication help for me to see what you envisioning. Yeah, back to the mission then. Whether you black, white, brown, yellow, or green, more can be accomplished as a team. Together the problem is never as hard as it may seem. Lot of captivating convos like Martin telling his dream. We choosing curiosity over certainty. You should certainly subscribe to this one here with some urgency. This a win. Even Cali know. You are now tuned in to the Salad Bowl. The Salad Bowl Podcast.
It's the Salad Bowl Podcast.
You are now tuned in to the Salad Bowl.
It's the Salad Bowl Podcast.
Yeah, you are now tuned in to the...
It's the Salad Bowl Podcast.
You are now tuned in to the Salad Bowl.
You are now tuned into the Salad Bowl Podcast with Kevin Thompson.
Right. Welcome back to the Salad Bowl Podcast. I want to welcome officially Mr. Terrence Lestelle.
Well, thank you for having me, Kevin. You know, it's been a pleasure knowing you, and I look forward to having this conversation with you.
Of course. Now, me and Terry, we met on a basketball floor, and you're probably looking at this footage right now or listening to this, and you can clearly see that there is a difference in age. But I would tell you that Terry, in my eyes, is one of the best basketball players in the Jewish Community Center that we play basketball in. We're going to definitely dive into the basketball arena and how we met, but like with all of our episodes here on the Salad Bowl Podcast, we usually like to jump in and start getting to know people from a bird's eye view. Sometimes we see people in passing, but we really don't know their origin story. And that's really what we do in our first segment of our podcast. We call it The Harvest. The Harvest just gets into like your roots and where you come from. That way, when we start having other conversations, we can all look back to where you come from to see how you were socialized and maybe why you think the way that you think. So, Terry, you know, to start this whole thing off in The Harvest, can you tell me where you come from and what life looked like coming up as Terrence Lestelle?
Well, that's Terrence with 2 R's and all E's, okay, which has been misspelled. So
Yes.
I picked, I guess, Terry as a nickname. So it's interesting that people who know me from when I was young call me Terrence.
Really?
For the most part. And so other people who have met me and known me since will know me as Terry, although my formal name is Terrence. I got that name from my father. My father liked it when he was in the Marine Corps.
Really?
And as you well know, we connected with the Marine Corps. He fought in World War II in the Pacific, in the Marine Corps. I am a fifth generation New Orleanian. My son and daughter are sixth, and my 4 grandkids are seventh. So we have lots of roots here, and that's on both sides of my family. I was born in 1949, 4 years after my father was discharged from the Marine Corps. My mother, and it's interesting, my father's name was August Lestelle.
Really?
He was a junior, and my mother's name is June.
Got the months of the year.
We have August and June. I was born in May, and my brother was born in July. He lives in Lafayette. But I grew up in New Orleans, and I don't want to get too technical, but in the area, Esplanade area.
Yes.
And then we moved out to New Orleans East when I was in 3rd grade. My aunt, my mother's side, was a teacher at John McDonough. So I went to public school at John McDonough, and then there was a brand new school in New Orleans East in a place called Pines Village off of Morrison Road. Dalman Road. And so I grew up there. It was a wonderful place. It was a new subdivision. There were a lot of kids. We actually cleared the baseball field of rocks when we were young so we could play.
No kidding.
So we played a lot of sports all the time. I went to a public school in junior high school at Colton on St. Claude. And actually, when I was in my last year, we were the city champs in baseball.
Oh, were you on that team?
I was on that team.
Okay, so we got a champ sitting next to us right now.
Well, we were champs, and baseball was I guess my favorite sport at the time. And so I went to high school at Nichols High School, further down. On St. Claude, close to the Industrial Canal, and it was a public school. And I graduated in 1967 there. I played baseball on the baseball team, and we were actually state runner-ups on in baseball.
What position you played?
I played outfield.
Nice.
I played right field, center field. I played a little left field, but I played outfield. It wasn't because of me that we went so far. We had 2 fabulous pitchers, one who was in the Hall of Fame at Tulane, and another made it to AAA baseball.
Oh, wow.
So I played a lot of baseball and a lot of sports and very interested in that. I was, and it's awfully hard to talk about yourself. But I did well in high school. I was the #1 boy graduate. There were like 7 girls ahead of me in high school.
No kidding.
And I went to Tulane undergraduate.
Okay.
And I got a degree in psychology and a minor in English.
Nice.
And then since I did not want to stop going to that enjoyable education route, I just decided to go to law school, and so I went to Loyola Law School, graduated in 1974. I clerked for a federal judge after that, a U.S. federal judge in the Eastern District of Louisiana, also clerked for a Supreme Court justice. And after that, I got admitted to the University of London to get a Master's of Law in Admiralty and Maritime Law, which I received in 76.
Wow.
And I am married to a wonderful woman, and who I always tease that she married me because she wanted the year trip to London.
That was her reasoning behind it all.
Well, I tease her about that. We met on a blind date.
Nice.
And
who set up this blind date?
She didn't want to go. She didn't want to go out with me.
It's funny how that works out, right?
Because I was a goyim. Okay. Okay, that means a non-Jewish boy.
Oh, really?
Okay. And she came from Chicago, from Wilmette, which is a northern suburb of Chicago, and a wonderful place. She went to a high school called New Trier, which is well known.
Okay.
And a very, very good school. So she didn't want to go. Her roommate talked her into it. And I was working at the time. Working at the time at a wine store, at least had worked at a wine store when I first started law school. And so the guy who was the manager was the boyfriend of her roommate.
Oh, wow.
And so they set us up. And we just celebrated our 50th anniversary. I know
That's
she's
amazing.
not going to like me saying that.
That's amazing.
Okay, but it's wonderful. And
That's a substantial amount of time with somebody, and much respect to the relationships that last that long. It's definitely not a easy feat to be in a marriage for that long. It sounds like that blind date experience really turned out to be a fruitful one. Question for you, Terry. I mean, because you're going through, and I'm sorry. You say this, and I've heard this. It's really hard to talk about yourself, but I mean, you've spent a lot of time here in this city in New Orleans, and whether you were in education at Loyola or going to Tulane or just working, high school, junior high, I would assume that the city has changed over the years tremendously. Even when we look at like the social constructs of like the things that happened post Katrina, pre Katrina. I'm not from here. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I keep on hearing from locals around here about this time before Katrina and how it was, New Orleans East was a different world back then. And can you kind of talk to me about some of the things that you've seen change here in this city over the many years that you've been here?
Yeah, and while you are misguided being a Falcon fan,
I knew this was going to come up.
we do like you.
Right. I'm one of the good ones, right?
We had another guy who was a Falcon fan, and I taught my granddaughter when she was young to say, "We don't like those dirty birds."
No, I understand. It's funny because, not to date this episode particularly, but just recently the Falcons beat the Saints in the last game of the season, even though both of us are not going to the playoffs. It's interesting because I wore a Falcon shirt to the gym that we go to, the JCC, and man, people were letting me have. They were like, "Oh, really? You're gonna wear that shirt up in here today?" And I was like, "Man, the Dirty Birds are always gonna get a tough."
Well, the last guy who was a Falcon fan, we threatened to tape to the locker.
I hear you on that one. That rivalry will always be substantial here in this city. It's just one that you can't get away from. But other than the football teams, how have things changed here in the city over the many years? I don't want to make it seem like it's a better or worse situation, but
well, there. First of all, when I grew up, the schools were not integrated; they were segregated.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I was in high school, we had no contact with African Americans or other people who were excluded from attending school with us. All right, and so that's changed. The New Orleans East was basically swamp. Okay, and when my parents bought this house, they bought a lot. They had to fill it in with river sand.
Oh, wow.
In order to be able to build the house there. And like I was saying before, there was a whole community in this area, and it has grown significantly, and it has also become a a primary African American
Yes.
area. When I was there, it was not.
Really?
And so we were there in 1963 with Betsy, and so I was actually in the house, experienced Betsy,
Wow.
which was quite an experience. I was in junior high school, I think, and my father had a boat, and we had it tied to the fence in case we had to get out of there. And the water rose up in the house 3 or 4 feet, and he said, "Well, go back there, boys, and
Get the boat.
bail out the water." You know, it was kind of just something to do because you
Right.
bailed it out, it came back in, and obviously so. That area had changed dramatically over the course of my lifetime.
Yeah. Now, another question, Terry, because I was born in 1988. That's old to some, but not so old to others. I probably seem pretty young to you, right? But
You're getting old.
I'm getting there. They're calling me Unc on the basketball court now. That lets me know that I'm getting up there in age. But we hear these stories about times when things were integrated. And of course, we can read the books, but for the people who were there, I feel like y'all are a part of history, right? And you talk about, okay, the schools weren't integrated, but I think that from what I've seen of New Orleans, it's a pretty diverse city. Can you kind of describe to me, like, was it separated in all spaces, or was it just like schools were separated, or would we still have friend groups that connected, or was the basketball court a little connected?
We had no contact.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Wow.
And what's been wonderful is the contact that I've had through basketball.
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, you may not know that I like to think I was the one that was instrumental in making that contact. There was a law clerk we had who had played for UNO. And they used to have a basketball game at the YMCA on St. Charles. Okay, and African American guys. And Tyrone, who had played at UNO, was an all-state basketball player, a great guy. And he told me that, and I said, "Well, why don't you guys come on over and play at the JCC?" So next thing you know, their group came over, and the group expanded, and it's what it is today.
Yeah, it's interesting because at the JCC, that was one of the initial gyms that I came to. Because whenever I what we call PCS in the Marine Corps, where we move stations, I get to a place and I always try to identify one basketball is just a watering hole of different people wherever I go. And I was like, where's going to be my new watering hole in New Orleans? Because I'm always going to want to play basketball. But JCC was one of the first places I came to. And I will say that I've stayed so long at that gym because of the diversity of the different type of players, different ages, the different races. It seems like it's very low drama. Nobody's fighting. Nobody's pulling out any guns. Nobody's, getting over the top. I really appreciate that space, and to know that you've been in this space for many, many years is actually pretty exciting to know, because I feel like that environment is probably a reflection of the time and efforts that you've put in sweat and in relationship building in that gym.
Well, like I tell people, and I probably told you when I first saw you, we come here for the basketball, but we stick around for the bullshit.
Yes. Okay? There's been a couple times I've shown up to the gym and I didn't even end up playing. I was just on the side, just talking. But that's the kind of environment I would actually say that it kind of feels a little bit like therapy when you're in there.
And it creates a lot of interesting things that have occurred, at least for me and for other people that I know. A friend of mine, another lawyer, had to be in court, and the African American lawyer was down in CDC, was saying how he was going to crush him. Okay, so the judge comes on the bench, whereupon the African American judge, she says to my friend, basketball player, his name, and come up here and see me. And so they gave each other a hug, whereupon the other lawyer looked at him and went, I guess we've got a level playing field,
Right.
And because she had played basketball with us,
Wow.
and was a judge, and was actually played at Tulane as
No
well.
kidding.
Yeah, so we've had an atmosphere where we play basketball and we get to know people,
Of course.
for who they are, and that's a wonderful thing.
That's awesome. Now, to go back into your story a little bit, Terry, I understand how you made your way through education, and we're going to get into that a little bit later as far as like your dealings with law, even your dealings with teaching over at Loyola. But I wanted to dig into your family dynamic a little bit more as far as like, you have a couple of children. What does your immediate family look like? Can you tell me a little bit about your children and your journey as a father?
I can, and my children are the very best. I have a brilliant son and a brilliant daughter. They're both wonderful, and I have 4 grandchildren.
That's awesome.
The oldest is my little princess, and three energetic grandsons who
Of
are
course.
wonderful. Actually, my grandson, one of them comes to
The JCC?
to do the scoring and shoot around with us. He comes sometimes, and in fact, I meant to give this to you. I have a present for you. Okay, now that you are going to be a full-time New Orleanian, as I understand. All right. And,
do I open this right now, Terry?
Yes, you do. Open
No.
it right now, and it's a segue because this is something that my daughter designed. She's an executive with a clothing company. She had worked for the Dallas Cowboys for a number of years. In
No
Dallas,
kidding.
In the apparel division.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to open up.
Open up.
Man, I'm going to tell you, Terry, this is my first gift that I've gotten on this show. And I truly appreciate it. Before I even see what it is, let's just actually, we'll see.
We'll see. Come on, open it up.
Oh, yes. This is nice. This is nice right here.
All right.
Oh my goodness!
And this it was designed by my daughter, and they have actually sold out at a store and have more of them. So you have a genuine, and it says "Let the good times roll" on the back. Let the good times roll, and that of course is the Mardi Gras colors, which you will see soon and in many years to come in the future.
Man, Terry, I really do appreciate this gift, and it means a lot to me, man. Just because one, New Orleanians, they do things different here. And I feel like they are so tight-knit when it comes to their culture. And then for them to invite somebody else in on that culture, whether it's Mardi Gras culture, whether it's the food, whether it's just letting the good times roll is a very definitive phrase for this city. And you bringing me this, Mardi Gras is coming up, so this will be worn. I will be out on the parade route with this on.
We'll look for you because we're gonna. Our whole family is going to be in those. So.
Oh, nice. Well, I'm gonna hopefully I fit in with more families than just my own when I put this on for the Mardi Gras season. Man, I truly do appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome.
And it will definitely be put to use. I was assuming you were probably gonna set me up with some like Saints gear and then have me conflicted on do I actually wear this, but this one for sure I will guarantee you is going to be for the ones that are listening and not watching. It is like a baseball jersey that has the Mardi Gras colors. It has like Mardi Gras colors and beads, and it says NOLA on the front, which is New Orleans, Louisiana, and on the back it says let the good times roll. And if you're ever in New Orleans and you want to know about Mardi Gras, that's exactly how it feels when you come down for Mardi Gras. You're letting the good times roll. And really, anytime in New Orleans, this is a good feeling city.
Well, I think that the city is very inclusive.
It is,
of everyone, even Atlanta Falcon fans.
Right.
We may rib you and all that, but
right.
it's a good ribbing.
And I feel like, even to your point, right? You're saying that New Orleans is a very inclusive city, and you were talking about your upbringing, how maybe the origins of it, just based off of the historical narrative of where our country was at the time, it didn't start off being inclusive, but how things can grow and change and end up being the things that end up celebrating us all. I think that's a very special thing that I've seen in this southern city where I've seen it a lot different than others. So hats off to New Orleans. Now, when we talk about kind of the harvest and your roots, we also want to get into. We talked about your family. We talked about your education. I want to understand your drive behind the education, right? Because you said that you have some multiple degrees, but how'd you land with law?
Well, initially it was because I didn't want to stop going to college, and I decided that I would try that.
Right.
I mean, I had no one in my family had been in law before. We had no one who had graduated from college.
Got it.
So there was little guidance career-wise in that field, virtually none.
Yes.
It just by chance I decided, well, let me see if I like this, and I did, and have done it for been a lawyer for over 50 years.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I would assume, and I'm not very well versed in law here in New Orleans, but I will say that it seems like the longevity behind your career, and we'll get into it a little later because we're going to talk about your law background and what you do. You're a very highly awarded lawyer here in the city. I was doing my research on you, Terry, and I was looking through some of the awards that you've won here in this city. I would just say that I'm pretty sure that you put a lot of effort into your craft, and putting a law career together over 50 years, I would say is not necessarily an easy feat.
Well, I like to think that I show up every day and I work hard, and that's something that was instilled in me by my parents, who were always very serious about education.
Okay.
And were always extremely supportive. So, and I try to pass that along. The vast majority of the practice of law is just grinding it out. Showing up, being conscientious, being caring about what you do. Because I mostly represent individuals. All right? I don't represent corporations in litigations as a general rule. And so I believe that my stability, doing the hard work every day is what I strive to do with caring and try to help the people that I represent navigate through something that they don't want to go through. Being involved in a claim or a lawsuit.
Understood.
It's very stressful.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And actually, Terry, I think that segues into our next segment appropriately, because here on the Salad Bowl podcast, we usually save our second segment to be what we call the toss-up. Now, the toss-up kind of opens this conversation up a little bit more. I have a bowl in front of us. We call it the Salad Bowl. And in there, I have some predetermined questions that I have for Terry Lestelle, right? Or Terrence Lestelle, but we're going to call you Terry here on the show, right?
Whatever. I answer to both.
In our bowl, all I'm going to do in order to play this game, if you're open to playing this game, is that I'm going to hand you the bowl and you just pick one of the green pieces of paper that is supposed to signify the salad up, and you're just going to hand it to me, and I'm going to read you the question. They're usually like either or questions, or like tell me about this certain time, or just open questions that helps us get to know you a little bit more and structure our conversation a little bit further. Are you okay with playing this game?
We'll see. Sure.
Okay. All right. You just pick one out and you can hand it to me. All right.
Is that homemade salad?
It is homemade salad. I picked it out in the backyard, chopped up the lettuce and now it's here. Actually, my daughters helped me.
Yeah, they gave you it's New Orleans.
Exactly. New Orleans grown.
Okay.
It's funny because my daughters always know when I'm doing a new episode because I'm always like, where's the green construction paper at? And they're like, oh, okay, you must be writing up some questions. All right, so here's the first question for Terry. We're going to do 5 in total. So the first question for Terry on the toss-up is, how has playing basketball across generations shaped the way that you see age, ego, and connection?
Well, first, I love basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Our passions in life, first of all, it's my family. I love my family very much. I have a wonderful family. As I told you, I have a fantastic wife who looks very, very young for her age, okay? And she's very vital. She's my law partner, by the way.
Oh, wow.
And we've been law partners since 1980. She went to law. She wanted to, when we were living in London and I was doing the Masters of Law, she said, I always wanted to go to law school. I said, well, apply. And so she applied and got admitted to
That's amazing.
And went to law school and did very well. And so we have not only been partners in marriage, but we've been partners in
super cool.
in the practice of law for a good while. And it's been a very rewarding situation.
Yeah.
So my passion for a while has been basketball, after my family. And of course, my grandkids, I can't tell you how great grandkids are. Like they say,
that's what I hear.
If I'd have known how much fun my grandkids I would have had them first.
That's the first time I heard that. Yeah. But I'm sure my parents would say the same thing about their grandkids.
No, it's wonderful. When you could just have the freedom to interact with them and not the responsibilities. Although you do want to instill them, values and teach them what you can. But the basketball, like I said before, it's not only just, I like it because it not only is it a physical thing, and of course it is physical, right, and it gets physical out there, and you have to have the skills, but it's a mental thing. Decision making happens in an instant. Yes. And you have to, you make a good decision or a bad decision. And if you make a bad decision, you've got to go and wipe that from your mind, yes, and then try to make a good decision. But the speed, the decision making, the mental aspect of it, I like as well as the physical. Longevity is one of the things that I think is, I guess, a good trait I have. Yes. Now that's heredity. Yeah. My mother lived to 101 and a half years old, and she was cutting her grass and driving when she was 98.
Wow.
Okay, so fortunately, hopefully, I've got those genes. My uncle, her brother lived to 98 or so, and their aunt lived to 97. So so I have some history about that. I feel that you got to keep going and be active, and this is something that I like to be active in. I don't like to jog. I'm not going to go do a marathon or an Ironman like some people we know.
Right.
And so I'm not going to do that. So I get my exercise from that. We've made many wonderful friends and met lots of characters.
Yes, I can only imagine. I'm thinking when you just said that, some of the characters we currently play basketball with. Oh yeah, you get an array of different characters that show up to the basketball court. But you know what's interesting is when we play basketball. One thing that I think that's different about New Orleans hoops that I haven't seen, and I've played basketball a lot of different places in this world.
I can tell.
But come on, but I would say that
he's really great.
Thank you. I appreciate
he can pass
that,
a little more.
Right, I could pass.
I'm just working. I'm working to set myself up to get a pass this weekend.
Of course, yeah, I got you. You got 10 passes from me coming to you this weekend. But in New Orleans, when we come into the gym, it's a different experience than other gyms I've been in, because it seems like, back to the environment that you were talking about earlier, no matter if you have beef with somebody or you got into an argument with somebody the previous week or somebody didn't pass you the ball, it seems like everybody who comes in our gym, whether it's young, old, middle-aged, everybody greets each other on the way in, and then they say bye when they leave. You know, you could be upset, but, you know, still people are like very connected to each other based off the space that we're in. And I can't say that I've seen that in other places. I've left plenty of gyms upset, grab my stuff, I'm taking my ball, and I'm going home. But here in New Orleans, it seems a little bit different, and it's a little bit more humanized, to where it's like, this is just a game, and we stand for something more than just our basketball abilities, that we are humans as well. Would you say the same thing? Or
yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. Now, don't think that people aren't competitive.
Of course.
Because they really are. And sometimes it gets out of control and whatever. But
Yes.
for the most part, yes, there's a camaraderie that develops. And it's really funny, because when you see the people who you play basketball with out of context in the everyday world, it can have some interesting things that occur as a result of the relationship, you know?
You know, it's funny you bring that up. I had an out of character moment on the basketball court during the men's league that we play in, right? And it was against a guy. I won't say his name right now, but he's actually, I asked him to come on the podcast, but we kind of got into it. I was having one of those bad days, and I was channeling my bad day on the basketball court, probably not in an appropriate way. And me and him kind of got into a little, physical battle. We didn't fight or anything like that, but it was just like, I want to make sure you feel me, and you're making sure I feel you as well, with some shoulders and things like that, and a little bit of fouling. And I remember we had a not so favorable interaction to where we shared some words. And this is the cool thing about a small city like New Orleans. I was like, man, I don't know who that guy is, but, bump him, right? And then I ended up finding out who he was. And I was like, oh, come to find out, he dated my sister-in-law. And he's a really good dude. And I had actually run into him previously in the city, and he invited me into his garden and stuff like that. I was like, I didn't know it was that same guy. So it really reminded me, like, oh, okay, I acted a fool on the basketball court, but maybe I need to tone this a little bit down, because this is just basketball and we are humans. And this guy is actually a really good dude. So it just kind of kept my mind frame in the right position, especially in a city like this.
Well, the city is a small place, and the guy you play on the basketball court, his brother or sister, in some other context.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And so when you start talking about somebody, beware that that's probably
Somebody.
the person you're talking to.
Exactly.
There's some relationship.
100%. Well, that was a great first answer, Terry. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the second question of the toss up. Go ahead and pick out your second question. And thank you for sharing.
Well, my pleasure.
All right, here we go. Second question of the toss up for Terry. What's a belief you once held strongly that time, experience, or relationships forced you to reconsider?
Well, I think that because there was no interaction between all of the white people that I grew up with, and no interaction with the African American, that there was a not dislike, but there was
maybe like a bias?
There was a bias, for no reason, because it was a general bias. The thing that I love about playing the basketball is got to know a lot of people that I never would have had contact with, and to learn that there are great people, there are mediocre people, and there's some people that are rotten, just like there are great white guys and rotten white guys. Okay.
Yes.
You know, it's that everybody is the same when you come down to it.
Yes.
And you know, that's been something that has been great to learn.
Man, I love that answer because I do think, you know, whether it's, even if it's not basketball, I feel like sports in general is like the great equalizer, right? Because you have to share spaces with people. You have to, you know, share sweat. You have to share areas. You have to share competitive natures, to where when we get in those spaces, sometimes it gives you the opportunity that you wouldn't have off the court or off the field to really get to know people. So I really love that answer, Terry.
Well, and also too, you know, I should mention, as I said before, you know, my wife is Jewish, my kids are Jewish, and there was some, you know, there was some challenges.
Yes.
At the beginning, because, you know, just like an interracial, interfaith marriage was not the standard, and so, you know, my wife had to take a leap. You know, it was a stressful thing, and the wonderful thing that I learned was, because I grew up, I didn't know any Jewish people, and if I did, I didn't realize they were Jewish.
Right.
Okay, and so I am basically Jewish now, and I have wonderful friends, relatives who I love dearly, and my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law and my other brother-in-law and my father-in-law. I called him Dad. I mean, and they were wonderful people, and I love them dearly. And I learned about the prejudice that the anti-Semitism against them, that not only existed back then, but unfortunately it continues to do that, and it you know, it's hurtful, and I understand at least a little level about discrimination.
Yes. And that's the thing. I think sometimes when people see, especially in this setting right now, there's a white male talking to a black male, we always, I don't want to say we always, but there's a polarizing aspect to the race conversation, but discrimination extends to a lot of different things. And the feeling of being discriminated against or seeing discrimination happen still spawns a certain feeling from, I think, certain individuals. When you talk about, you know, being in an interfaith marriage, you talked about some of the challenges. Can you kind of describe like some of the things, maybe some of the obstacles? Because I'm not familiar of the interfaith challenges that you may have encountered. Can you kind of describe to me what that looks like, or does it even still look that way, or is it something of old, or is this something that is growing?
When my wife knew that we were serious and we're going to get married, she was very concerned that her grandmother was going to disown her, or sit shiva, meaning she's dead to her, because she was marrying a non-Jew. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
So it turned out her grandmother and I became great friends, and I loved her dearly. Yeah.
It's crazy how that turns out. Like some of the things that we would be most scared of, as far as like in our minds of what we're assuming could happen, ends up being the opposite. I think it's more refreshing that way. And it actually shows you that the world may not be as scary at times as we make it. You know, so thank you for that answer, Terry. We're going to go ahead and move on to question 3 of the toss-up. Thank you for sharing that one.
Well, that's how it's up.
You're good. 5-second rule.
Right.
All right. The third question for Terry on the toss-up is, what do you think younger generations are unfairly criticized for, and what criticism do you think actually holds weight?
Well, I can only, you know, it's my communication with for younger people, obviously, primarily comes through younger lawyers. Okay, obviously, the people we play with. Okay, but
Yes.
we're playing a game.
Right.
I guess the young guys like to really shoot the threes, like some other people that we know.
Right.
But that's been a trend. What I find is that they don't sometimes want to have a conversation face to face. Everything is text me first.
Yes.
Yeah. And in fact, they're afraid to answer the phone because they don't know why you're calling them. And I didn't realize that, that you need to text them and say, can we talk right now?
Yes.
As opposed to give them a call like, what's he calling me about?
Exactly.
You
It spawns some kind of a reaction. I learned this, Terry, when I was a Marine Corps recruiter, and a lot of the things that we had to do was kind of engage in the younger community of like, hey, we need to set up an appointment so we could talk about you joining in or whatever. And I used to tell my recruiters all the time, I'm like, if you call them, they're not going to answer. You literally have to figure out how to text to communicate with this younger generation.
So I'm fearful that trend is going to continue, and that they relied too much on shortcuts to technology. AI can be a blessing and a curse.
Agreed,
and it is a scary thing going forward, in my opinion, about and it needs to be regulated and all that. So the younger people, I think, do that. But as evidenced, at least by my grandchildren, they are all smart. They learn things that they want to learn.
Yes.
And I'm not sure that's everyone. I hope that they embrace education, and that they don't. And I'm groping for words here. Just lose their humanity. I guess.
Yes.
I worry about that because of the lack of interaction with a lot of people. I mean, don't get me wrong. They have their friends group and all
Right.
that stuff, and they interact with that. But I mean, people are people, and they don't change drastically over
Right.
the short span that I've seen.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I truly feel, Terry, like even in my journey is like the most growth that I've seen in myself has come from when I'm exposed to people that are not like me. Right. I feel like it gives me an opportunity, like you said, that humanity of being able to join in with the conversation, even though it may feel a little uncomfortable, or to make that call, even though it may not be a good time, or we're not necessarily fighting, but maybe in an argument or something like that. Those are the things that have helped mold my character, that I can agree with you, like could be going away or maybe just shifting in a direction that we've never seen before because we have access to smartphones, and we've taken a lot of shortcuts and just, I'll just send a text, or, and that's probably one of the hardest things, and probably leads to some of the most arguments is like, you can't read tone in text messages. Like I can write something very plainly, but if somebody takes it the wrong way, because we lack that human interaction, I feel like that can end up being a struggle or a challenge as we grow as people.
Yeah, and I've seen the technology change dramatically over the years.
Yeah. Yes.
In the practice of law. When I really like people, and I enjoy representing everybody. Don't get me wrong. So some of them are a challenge, but I like to find the good in them, and try to understand their story and their life, so that you can better represent them, and that's a a wonderful thing. But in everyday communication, are we losing that human contact? And I
Yes,
think
sir.
we're going down that road.
Yes, sir.
People are actually, like you said, afraid to talk to you.
They are.
You
They are. That's definitely one to put a pin in and make a note on, because the good thing about this technology that we're using right now is that we could look back after some years and see, are some of the things that you're talking about right now, do they come to fruition, or are we able to turn the tide and ensure that we're headed in a good direction?
Well, they used to have in the comic books using the communication watch, okay, and that was far-fetched
Right.
back when I grew up.
Exactly.
And everybody's got a
Everybody's got
smartwatch.
everybody's got an Apple Watch
And-
or some kind of Samsung watch or something going on now.
And the information is just so overwhelming.
It is.
Because to live in an environment with so much information is a challenge.
Right. All right. So thank you for that, Terry. We'll go ahead and move on to our fourth question of the Salad Bowl podcast toss-up.
Okay.
And we'll see what we got. Hopefully these questions, you're giving some really good answers. Hopefully they're not too challenging. All right, here we go. When you think about trust between people, communities, or generations, what builds it the fastest and what destroys it?
Well, I think what builds it is communication and exposing yourself for who you are. People will trust you if they get to know you and know what you stand for. Yeah, some people just can't be trustworthy.
Of course,
okay?
yes,
because their nature is not to be that way. And if somebody violates the trust, then there's a repair that needs to be done. I think that's the way I would answer that.
Would you say, for someone who's been alive for a while, right? You've seen, and that wasn't a dig. I promise that wasn't a dig.
Thank you.
But
It's all right.
But I think what I'm trying to get to is that you've seen many seasons of life where you've probably had relationships grow. Those seasons sometimes end. If you think back over your life, Terry, what would you say are some of the ingredients that you've put into your salad bowl to ensure that you've had the strongest relationships and the strongest friendships?
Well, I try to be honest with people, honesty, and be genuine. I am what I am, said Popeye.
Yes, this is true. This is true.
You have to be yourself. The best person you can be is
you. Agree.
And so you have to not just talk the talk, but walk the walk.
Yes. Thank you for that, Terry. That leads us to our last question of the toss-up, man. We're almost finished here. I have a feeling this last one's going to be a good one.
Oh, I was going to read it to you. I was going to ask you.
I don't think I'm qualified to answer your questions because, I'm pretty sure you're going to give a lot more knowledge than I have. All right, here it goes. You've lived through massive cultural and social shifts. Which change do you think society misunderstands the most?
I don't think society can agree on anything. Okay?
This is true, especially right now.
So so I know that after Katrina, and we probably we represented over 1,000 people in Katrina claims with some other law firms, and it was quite a challenge. It was a question of whether or not New Orleans would survive, and there were a lot of people in different parts of the country that says they weren't worth saving. And so that was a dynamic thing that occurred, and I think that New Orleans came back from the ashes of the flood.
Yes.
And have rebuilt and are much better. And unfortunately, some of the people who were criticizing have been devastated by the same type of events.
Yes.
Hurricanes are now going on the East Coast routinely, even as far as New York and beyond. And the challenge of surviving those kind of events have been known by many other people besides this area, and of course all the disasters and all that. And hopefully people will continue to have empathy and assistance, provide assistance to those people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think sometimes, even being from Atlanta, somewhat of an outsider, right? He said, that's okay. But being from Atlanta, I didn't understand, and even I talked to my folks about this, like when Katrina came through, though we were 6 hours away, our mindset wasn't, I don't think it was set up to understand what was actually happening down here. And since living here in New Orleans for the last 4 to 5 years, I'm starting to realize like there's a certain perspective from this city that nobody else gets, but New Orleanians, it runs through their blood. And when you brought up the question of like some people said that New Orleans wasn't worth saving, that's not even a question for people who are from this city. They know that it's worth something to save. So it's interesting that from different regions of this country, we can get different perspectives, but I would say there's a substantial value that is here in this city if you're from here.
My mother used to always say, I was blessed to be born in New Orleans and live in New Orleans. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. Okay, and that was her feeling, and I think the feeling of many New Orleanians who continue to stay here. Don't get me wrong; it has a lot of problems.
It does.
It does.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll work on them, and those will be better.
Mm-hmm.
I did not fall into any huge potholes on the way down.
Right. They seem to swallow people up around here.
Yeah, and of course not to play lightly with that or the crime issues and all that.
Right.
It has a lot of things that need to be solved, but it's the Big Easy. It's a great place to live, and I am certainly fortunate to be here. I love living in London. It was a great place. Enjoyed doing that. And there are other places that, because I've traveled a lot of places that are wonderful. There's no doubt about it. But this is a pretty good existence.
Yes.
I have my grandkids back. My son was a very successful lawyer, assistant U.S. attorney in New York for a number of years, and my daughter is just gung ho, just beautiful and just smart and all that. So I'm blessed with those. And my grandkids, don't get me started. Okay? They're just wonderful, and I'm very fortunate to be here. Because literally my father was in combat on several major Pacific battles, and a lot of the Marines with him didn't come back. Yeah, and it was amazing because he used to tell me some stories about his experiences, and it's just amazing that I'm here. Yes, and hopefully because I'm here, I'll do something good for other people, and for those that I love.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a true believer, Terry, that everything does happen for a reason. I will say that I don't think it's by chance that we sit here together where you're, imparting your knowledge on me, that we have this interaction. We're able to document this interaction as well. It's not lost on me that, of course, it could not have gone that way, especially for people who came before us. The dangers, the risk, the experiences that others have, we're all connected somehow. So I don't take it lightly, and I think it's ultimately a blessing that interactions like this can actually happen.
Yeah, how many generations had to survive for us to be here talking?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's a wonderful thing, and and a wonderful thing is you have daughters.
Yes.
You'll have granddaughters one day and be older.
I can't wait. And maybe I can. We got teenage daughters right now. Maybe I can wait a little bit if they're listening. But I'm looking forward to. Especially the way that you talked about being a grandparent. I'm especially looking forward to that because I can spoil them and just give them back to their. Parents.
I mean, it's great, and they aren't teenagers yet,
right?
But and hopefully they'll still talk to us
hopefully
when they get older. But right now, they usually don't want to go home when they're with us.
Nice. That means you're doing something right.
Right. So, which is great.
Yes, that's awesome. Well, Terry, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the toss-up. Thank you for answering our 5 questions. And I think that these questions help us pick your brain a little bit more. They bring out some of the best advice in the guests. And thank you for sharing. What we're going to segue to is now our next segment. We call it Mixed Ingredients. Now, I wanted to talk to you in Mixed Ingredients about your law journey as far as here in the city. And one of the things that stood out to me when you were introducing yourself is that in law, you don't represent corporations or organizations, you represent individuals, which takes a level of connection between yourself and that person that you're representing. Do you feel like you've I guess the way I want to structure this question is where do you think you got that from? That interest level to connect with the person rather than the organization?
Well, my mother used to come home and tell us about the person she met at Schwegmann's at the grocery store that she talked to for half an hour. Okay, so she would start conversations with people. It was very, very friendly. My wife. Everybody loves my wife, so being around her, I've become a better person. Everyone loves her. Okay?
That's awesome.
And everyone wants to talk to her and share things with her. So anyway,
do you feel like when it comes to looking for that connection, because you've been doing law for 50 years, right? In order to do something, I think anything for 50 years, you have to love it, or there has to be some level of love, adoration, or care for it. Do you feel like you've been able to find that in your occupation, or are there times where you're like, I don't like law so much?
Well, there's certain times where it's very frustrating.
Okay.
It's kind of beyond your control in a lot of ways. But yes, I mean, obviously, I do have a love for representing people and the challenge of trying to help them navigate to a successful resolution of their issue. And that's very satisfying because sometimes it can be life altering. And so the satisfaction of helping someone is a gift, and it really is. And so it makes one feel like, okay, it was worth all the hard work,
right,
to get to that point. And a lot of it is challenging, like I said, frustrating. Are there bad days? Yeah. I mean, you'll go to a hearing and go before a judge and you're convinced that he made the wrong ruling and it was against you.
Yes.
And cases get tossed out. And so if you go before a jury, they may not see it your way.
Right.
And when you have a situation like that, it's out of your control, or a result that you didn't want. I mean, it's a very troubling thing.
Yeah.
You remember your your defeats more than you do
The
your
wins.
victories.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
And that's and it can motivate you because you don't want to make that same mistake.
Yeah, I think that's a valuable lesson. Like, there's no path that comes without a little bit of loss, right? And I think that's what helps us move forward in this world, whether in law, whether in sports, whether in the military, whether in whatever space. I think that's a valuable lesson, a life lesson to understand.
You know, Mark Twain said that experience is a name that we give to our mistakes.
Oh, wow.
And it really is true. It's one of my favorite sayings, you know.
Man, that's deep. I really like that. And I'm
Well,
sorry,
I didn't
but go
say
ahead.
it.
I was about to say, consider it stolen, Mark Twain.
I just, you know, there was a movie, and I'm trying to remember the guy's name, but anyway, where they're showing each other. It's a woman and a man, and they're detectives, and they're showing each other. Look, I got shot here. I got stabbed here. You know, all the wounds that you have, you know, had to make you who you are, and to make you better.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure that, you know, when you went out on a patrol, when you were out there the first time, you know, perhaps you did better the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time.
This is true.
When it became, not that you become complacent,
Right.
but you have the knowledge. Oh no, don't do that.
Exactly. Exactly. You make a very good point. Now, as your background and these experiences that you've gotten as far as being a lawyer, it seemed like you spent a lot of time doing this thing, but you were able to have other outlets as far as, like, didn't you end up teaching at Loyola in order to take your experience and pour it into?
Yeah, we did that as a giving back to the university. It was called the skills curriculum.
Okay.
And so we taught settlement and negotiation.
How was that experience?
It was great, actually. One of the lawyers, my wife and I did it, and we had two other lawyers. One of them was a basketball player that played out there, and he was the head of a big defense law firm that has 450 plus lawyers throughout, and he is a great guy.
Nice.
Wonderful fella. And so very connected. And so we, with the university, so we did that for about 10 years, and it was fun.
Right.
It was fun. His wife, who was a brilliant lawyer, and I would argue cases in front of the kids. And I tell you what, I earned my money. I wasn't getting paid anything for doing it, okay?
Right.
But it was
Right.
it was an intense experience, and hopefully we imparted at least some knowledge to the people.
And knowing you, Terry, I know for a fact that you did, which leads to my question: which do you get more out of, practicing law or teaching law?
Oh, I just taught for a little while. I mean, I liked the aspect of teaching was fun, and but I mean the practice of law. It's kind of like the lawyers are kind of like the players in the basketball game. The referees are like the judges. Okay,
got it.
Much more fun to be in the arena.
Yes.
For
sure.
As opposed to on the calling balls and strikes or calling fouls and like the umpires do. So it's a very challenging situation. You have to be able to go from point A to point B, and A is the step in the door, and B is some successful conclusion. Every case is different. We learn lots of different things, different medicine. Sometimes on the basketball court, I'll ask one of the smart doctors there, what do you think about this thing?
Yeah.
And we will exchange information.
Nice.
And we've had a number of doctors RJ's dad, when I played in his team, we had this guy who was the head of surgery at Ochsner. Okay, and he was one of the toughest guys out there.
Wow!
But we've had a lot of guys out there. But anyway, it's very intellectually stimulating because you learn about different things. How does this work? What are the mechanics of this injury? What went wrong?
Yeah.
A lot of safety issues, a lot of how equipment works, things like that.
Yes.
So it's very challenging and stimulating, but it's demanding. It's very demanding.
It sounds like you have to be a sponge because it's like you're absorbing different areas of expertise in order to make your best advice or for you to practice appropriately in the space that you're representing.
Well, you can go down many paths, all right. And the question is, when you get the case, it's kind of like a blank slate. Where do I go from here to get to the end? What do I need to do? What do I have to do? What are the challenges? And of course, a lot of times you get stuff thrown at you that you don't expect. And you have to deal with that. So it's sometimes very unpredictable. And then at the end of the day, when it's time to go to court, and either have a judge trial or a jury trial case, then you've got to hopefully explain it adequately and put on your case in the right way so that it resonates with the jury.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of skill on lots of different aspects of the practice of law.
Yeah.
You can't do every type of law. So people, generally the lawyers, there are no general practitioners like you might have. They're kind of specialists in different things.
How much does personalities control those spaces and network as well? I mean, like, I would assume that people who either have a specialty or practice law, whether you're defending or representing someone, and the relationships with judges, lawyers, other lawyers, how does that play out when it comes to practicing the rights and wrongs of what we dictate in a courtroom?
Well, there's a lot of interaction with and hopefully personal interaction between the lawyers, and it can get heated. It's a contest, but it's not just that you won the game, but it affects somebody's life.
Oh wow!
Okay,
yeah.
So you have to have interaction, and I tell people, look, I want to be friendly with the other side because it is beneficial to you at the end of the day if they like me as opposed to hating me. Okay. They may be in a better mood to try to resolve your case without you having to go to court. And two, why should I really fight with you if we're competing against each other? The example that you gave, we may be competitive, but why should it get nasty? But it does, unfortunately, sometimes.
Exactly.
And sometimes they have the conversation like, do you really want to go down this path of going at each other? Do you really? Let's just do our jobs.
Exactly.
What we need to do and see if we can work our differences out. And if we can't, be civil about it. Yeah,
of course.
It doesn't always happen.
Well, in the military, I was doing this particular job we call like an equal opportunity advisor, and I would teach workshops on, healthy workspaces and things like that. And one of the rules that we used to have when we taught this workshop was we used to tell the students, let's not turn conflict into competition, because a lot of times it turns into the, hey, I'm just more worried about winning this competition rather than being right or wrong. It's just like, I want to fight with you. And I think that when we're focused on, let's just take care of our occupation, let's make sure that we all leave here credible and we all know that we're doing our job here, I think we can get a lot further than just, turning conflict into competition. So I really like your point on that. Go ahead.
And I think it's been, but there is a lot of conflict. I mean, it is an adversarial system,
right?
We are against each other, and we're playing sometimes for high stakes.
Yeah. Would you say that the conflict is necessary in order to get the outcome, or?
Well, it's the system. Everybody. Sometimes people take extreme positions.
Okay.
All right, and then they work toward a smaller area of dispute.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what happens. Most cases, you can't really make a lot of generalizations about cases. There are so many different types of cases and so many different ways to potentially resolve them. The big thing is mediation these days. There's a lot more lawsuits, but mostly, we don't file any frivolous lawsuits. People think that lawyers do that. It doesn't make any sense, particularly if you're working on a percentage of recovery, a contingency fee. You don't take a case that has no chance of success.
Exactly.
But some people don't see the case like you do, and you try to get them to at least acknowledge that what you're going to present is going to be this. They may not believe that you can, but you want them to see the case your way, and you want to try to see the case their way.
Yeah.
Many times people are just on a different page, and it goes down the path it has to be.
Yeah.
Trial.
One other question before we conclude this segment of mixed ingredients. In your experience, what do you think is the direction that law is headed towards? And on top of that question, do you think AI is going to play a part in the future of how law plays out?
Well, AI is the big thing in law. There is a lot of hesitation to use AI. In fact, there are many cases that have come down where judges have sanctioned lawyers for their use of AI because AI hallucinates and they make up stuff. Okay, and so when the lawyers submit memoranda, papers, briefs to the court, they cite a case, and the case doesn't say what it says because it's been made up by AI. These people have been fined, and sometimes lots of money for doing that. So there's a reliability, but every day I get at least 2 or 3 or more emails about AI and someone wanting to teach me how I can use AI in the practice of law. As a firm, we've decided not to use AI. We kind of like, with a small firm, when you call, you get the 3 lawyers there, not somebody who may not be a lawyer to initially and primarily handle your case. So we interact with people. I mean, I'll call you on the phone if I have to call you at 10 o'clock at night or later if I need some information. But so AI, we've had this discussion in our firm. Do we want to use it? We don't believe it's reliable. Okay, we're afraid that it is not giving us accurate information. Now, a lot of law firms use AI for different tasks, and a lot of them are trying to decide the role of AI that they want to use in the practice of law. But AI is here in the practice of law, and the question is, where is it going to end up? A lot of people think that it's inevitable somewhere in the course of AI, if they're not if they don't place limits on the use of it, that the AI is going to take over humanity. I mean, there are some people who have that view. That's the extreme view. But it's obviously a tool, and the law is trying to figure out the best way to use it but there are some serious problems right now with reliability, at least to us. Some people are willing to risk that, but it's a shortcut.
Yes.
And it's okay to use the shortcut, but we say, well, look, isn't it better just to do it on our own? Okay, and we'll know that it's true, as opposed to using the AI to create something. And then we got to go back and double check AI whether they told us the right thing.
So why not put the effort in the right place, right? Well, not even want to say right or wrong place, but I would assume that there's a value in doing it yourself, especially if you're practicing law and you have a case and you want to make sure your hands are touching everything to where you're knowledgeable enough to know how to represent your client appropriately. In using shortcuts, I feel like what you're saying is that in using some of those shortcuts for the wrong reasons, the value of your credibility in trying a case or in representing a case could be diminished by leaning or overly depending on AI.
Yeah, I mean, AI again is a tool. Is it reliable? Right now, it has problems that have been identified with hallucinations and just making up things.
Yes.
Okay, and you can't make up something when you tell the court, and when you tell the court something that's made up, it has consequences to a lawyer's license or their reputation. Because what happens is you basically lied to the court.
Yeah.
You told them that this case says this and it doesn't say it.
It does.
Now, that's a very scary thing. We don't ever want to be put in that position.
Right.
Now, again, there are certain things that you can do internally to use it to make, they can summarize depositions or medical records. But how accurate it is in summarizing all of those things, you still have to go back and check to make sure that you've got the right information. Did it hallucinate? Did it say it the right way? And so, right now, to me, while it is in substantial use in the practice of law, it just hasn't. We just aren't comfortable with relying on it.
That makes sense. Yeah. Thank you for that, Terry. I appreciate that answer because I feel like it's a current event or our current situation that we're looking at in this world that we're not going to get away from. Like you said, AI is here, but how people are choosing to either utilize this thing or not utilize this thing based off of what they feel is best for things that they're doing. So thank you for that answer. Terry, we're going to go ahead and we're going to segue to the last segment of the day. And the last segment that we have here on the Salad Bowl podcast is called The Final Bite. Now, this is where I leave it up to my guest. We've had a lot of conversation up until this point, but really the final bite, I leave my guest with the final bite as far as giving us a either timeless message or a thought or a situation on your mind that you want to present as far as like what you think our viewers, our listeners could really use in times like this that could, be universal. You could say, hey, the Saints are the best football team ever to grace the NFL, or we can get a little bit deeper than that and really think of a message that people could really use.
Well, I see this all the time because I get calls from people who are not happy with their lawyers. Choose your lawyer, your attorney, carefully. Check them out. Go talk to them, meet with them, and be sure that they are the one that you want to represent you. Look at, Google them, find out who they are and what they are. Get a recommendation. Go look at the recommendations on their website or ask for them. Anyway, I see a lot of people who are unhappy with selecting their attorneys, and that to me is something that I would just tell people to be careful about, because there are some attorneys out there that frankly shouldn't be doing much, and there are some that are just brilliant and much in demand, and I mean, litigation is a hard thing on everybody. it's a very costly undertaking. And, you want to have somebody who will commit to it. And of course, someone who you can rely on to do their very best for you.
Yeah. I think that's a great final bite because I haven't had to hire a lawyer up until this point. Let me knock on some wood, man, because hopefully I'm not in a situation that has me having to hire a lawyer. But I would want to know that is the right person for my situation. I guess my last question on the point that you bring up is there a way to gauge the character of your lawyer? Of course, we can research them online. We can do we can look at the recommendations. But is there anything in your initial interaction with this lawyer, one thing that our viewers can use when you initially meet? Is there something that serves as a red flag or things that you should steer away from?
Well, first of all, to find someone, it doesn't hurt to ask another person or another lawyer. So like if since you know me,
Mm-hmm.
you say, well, look, I need a lawyer for this. And I would say, I don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And the lawyer sometimes will help you find
Nice.
someone. But, there's a lot of information that you can find online.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of information that you can find about people. You can actually ask them, what cases, if they handled cases like this before, you can find out. Now, of course, when you go to people's websites, they say, oh, look, I got all this money for this person and all that stuff. And it's very difficult to know what kind of questions to ask.
Of course.
But if you have someone who's gone through the experience, tap into them and see if they like their lawyer. If you know a lawyer, ask them. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you do your research,
Mm-hmm.
do your investigation, because it's an important thing. Just like a doctor, you want to choose the right doctor.
Right.
How do you do that? Well, you talk to your friend and he says, oh, this doctor is great. I love this doctor.
Yes.
Okay. And you can get a recommendation like that and do your research. And then you can go see them and see if you seem to communicate and you like the person. Now, there's a lot of people that have great personality and all that stuff and may not, do great.
Yes. Just because you're a good person doesn't mean you're a good lawyer.
Their strong suit is that they're very, people
oriented.
persons.
Yeah.
And you never know. But it's hard because most people don't know a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
don't know an attorney, and I can't tell you how many times from people that I know, including out at the basketball court,
Mm-hmm.
they ask me some kind of legal question, and I'm glad to give them, some information. A lot of times it's on something that I don't do or
Mm-hmm.
or can't do because I'm not going to go and do a case that I'm not qualified and experienced
Of course.
in that because
Of course.
I'm just not going to do that. That's a disservice to the person.
Yes.
And I'm going to get into trouble by doing something I shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, look, Terry, as we conclude this episode, I want to make sure I have this on camera and just saying thank you. Thanks for coming to sit down with me.
Well, you're welcome very much. My pleasure.
Man, I get so much joy, and I've been doing this podcast thing for like a little over a year now. And people think that I'm joking, but like I really truly enjoy sitting down with people and learning from them. And you've given me an opportunity to learn a little bit more about this life through a different perspective. Thank you for sharing your history. Thank you for sharing the information about your family and what you do, because I feel like that helps me grow as a person. A lot of times we get into the podcast lanes because of what we think it's going to do for other people. And I think we overlook the fact that it does something for us as well. So thank you for sharing a little bit of you while you're here and telling us how you incorporate your life in the salad bowl of what we look at every single day. So I truly appreciate you, Terry.
My pleasure.
Yeah, man. To the viewers out there, I just want to say, this is another example of how we normalize authenticity. two different people coming together, being able to model what healthy conversation and interaction looks like. So until next time, I want you to go out there and choose curiosity over certainty. And hopefully we'll see you next time here on the Salad Bowl Podcast. Thank you.
You are now tuned in to the Salad Bowl. You are now tuned into the... Listen up, don't care if you about to pass out or you just getting up. You really did your thing with this one, Kevin, gotta give it up. Messages you bring and be motivation to live it up. We out here really normalizing authenticity. Can't be talking all the time cause that mean you ain't listening. I think you look better when you smile, I see you glistening. Communication helping me to see what you envisioning. Yeah, back to the mission then. Whether you black, white, brown, yellow or green, more can be accomplished as a team. Together the problem is never as hard as it may seem. Lot of captivating convos like Martin telling his dream. We choosing curiosity over certainty. You should certainly subscribe to this one here with some urgency. This a win. Even Cali know. You are now tuned in to the Salad Bowl. The Salad Bowl Podcast.
It's the Salad Bowl Podcast.
You are now tuned in to the Salad Bowl.
It's the Salad Bowl Podcast.
Yeah, you are now tuned in to the...
It's the Salad Bowl Podcast.
You are now tuned in to the Salad Bowl.
You are now tuned into the Salad Bowl Podcast with Kevin Thompson.